At the edge of a coral forest underwater, a large, shimmering clamshell, sealed tightly for decades, finally shuddered open. Inside, cradled in the soft, glowing pearl flesh of the shell, was a child. A crying baby human boy had just been born. The water was murky blue, and his small body was weak and vulnerable to the prey of the sea. The sea was no place for a child to be alone. Already, shadows were slithering nearby, curious as what life had just been created in that clamshell. The boy whimpered and wiggled in the sand, trying to press himself deeper beneath the shell to hide from such scary creatures. Along comes a beautiful mermaid, thousands of years old, as ancient as the sea itself. And that was when she saw him. She was passing above when she noticed the glimmer of the clam. Drawn by its brilliance, she swam down and parted the shell with gentle hands. "A shell born," she whispered. "You poor thing." She reached out and held him, pressing him to her big, bare, warm chest. His tiny hands reached out and clung to her bosom, and the mermaid felt a pang deep in her soul. The mermaid had long given up on finding a mate. The sea held many creatures, but none she could call her equal, none kind, or patient, or gentle enough to share a child with. So when she found the boy, it felt like fate had answered her in a different way. She gave him a name, Vore, which in her language meant light from the deep. The mermaid cradled the newborn boy in the crook of her arms as she floated just beneath the canopy of the kelp forest. He was so small, barely the length of her forearm. He was searching for something. He was hungry. The mermaid looked down at him, her heart aching. Her body had never created milk before. Her kind had no mammalian function, yet she was old and powerful and shaped by ancient magic. Her body began to respond. With a gentle song from her throat, a silver light illuminated from her collarbones, running down to her chest. There, her breasts swelled to quite an impressive size, from all the radiant magic. Her chest glowed softly from the skin being pulled so taut from the expansion of her chest. She pulled down her top, and guided the boy to her breast to feed. The boy's instinct took over, his lips closing around her nipple gently. And as he suckled, a warm, opalescent fluid flowed from her insides, through her breast, and into her new child. Feeding him made her feel so close to him, and her love for this child soon started to blossom like her chest. The mermaid gasped softly, her fingers stroking his back. She had never imagined this deep, primal connection. Nourishing him felt as though the sea had given her purpose again. Vore relaxed almost immediately after placing his lips upon her breast, the tension in his tiny limbs melting away as he drank himself full of milk. His eyes fluttered closed. His hands opened and closed softly on her skin, gripping her as though afraid to let go. But the sea was no gentle nursery. Currents could drag, predators could strike, and the sea itself did not care for fragile things. So, to keep Vore safe, the mermaid used a secret only her kind had preserved: the ability to turn completely invisible, like a ripple in the water. Even more than that, her magic allowed her to protect the boy within her own body. The mermaid would tilt her head back and invite Vore into her mouth each night so that he would have a safe place to sleep. Vore, already feeling safe and used to this bedtime ritual, would smile sleepily. Then he would place his hands on her lower lip and climb into her mouth, cross his hands over his chest, his small body sliding easily past her soft tongue and into the embrace of her throat and into the safe warmth of her belly. The gentle slide into her mouth had become something comforting to him. He loved the moment when her lips would seal around him, followed by the soft pull of her throat as she swallowed him down into her belly. It was soft and quiet inside, just like he had remembered his safe clamshell to be before he was born. Her belly expanded slightly to accommodate him. The mermaid's body was perfectly shaped by magic to cradle him without discomfort. Her stomach was never harsh, her bodily movements were always gentle and still, like a womb remade. He could see through her when she went invisible, watching the world outside from the safety of her belly. He could peek out at the passing whales, the roving sharks. He would see crabs skittering, and glowing jellyfish dancing in the moonlight. All these creatures, who never knew they swam by a mother and her child. Sometimes, he would press his palm to her stomach wall and whisper, "I can see everything." The mermaid would giggle, rubbing the small, smooth bump he made in her middle. This was what she wanted, to be a mother. By the time Leor was a boy of 10, he had seen half the ocean from inside his mermaid's belly. But he still yearned to explore above the water, to feel the air and sun. And so, sometimes during the day, she would let him out. The mermaid would stick her finger deep into her throat and regurgitate Leor back out through her throat. He would slip out of her mouth with a wet, playful laugh, falling into the water with a splash. Each night, as the sun set, she would float near him and open her mouth again. She parted her full lips and whispered softly, "Time to come in, little pearl." Leor would swim up to her, place a hand on her lips, and ease himself back in. Inside her belly, now a bit roomier as he grew, he felt safe. The mermaid taught him everything: how to read the currents, how to speak to crabs, how to swim fast. As the years passed, Leor grew stronger, braver, wiser. But his heart still ached with questions. "Who made me?" he asked one day. "I don't know," the mermaid replied, stroking his cheek. "But if they left you, they didn't deserve you. Still, we'll search, if that's what you want." Their search took them across trenches and past volcanic vents, into sunken ruins. Somewhere along the way, something followed them in the distance. One night, as the mermaid drifted in the open sea, invisible and tranquil, Leor pressed against the walls of her belly, eyes wide. "There's something out there," Leor exclaimed. The mermaid turned her head, sensing it too. An enormously long, monstrous black eel with yellow eyes that never blinked exploded toward them. The mermaid had just taken him into her belly for the night when the eel lunged from the darkness. She sensed it too late. The eel lunged again and bit down, grazing her tail. Blood mixed into the water. The eel had shredded her fin. Leor was thrown slightly to the side as her body twisted violently. He could see it all happening before his eyes. He pressed his palms against her belly walls. "Hold on!" she cried, flipping her body and vanishing in a shimmer of light. But the eel was clever. It struck blind, smelling her magic. It darted, coiled, and thrashed. Inside her, Leor could see flashes of the eel's jagged form through her skin. The mermaid raced through a coral labyrinth. She was bleeding so badly, a trail of blood was coming from her fin. She dove into a narrow cave beneath a reef wall. She wedged herself deep inside, wrapped her tail around herself, and silenced her heartbeat. The eel hissed in frustration, slamming its body against the rock, trying to get to the mermaid. But after hours, the eel grew tired and finally slithered away. When it was safe, the mermaid let Leor out. He stared at her bleeding fin. "Oh no! You're bleeding," Leor said as he pointed to her fin. She smiled through her pain. "I'll be fine. You're safe. That's all that matters." They both looked at each other in the eyes. Leor, having grown up to be a teenager by now, was learning the definition of true love. And his love, still young and uncertain, was beginning to bloom. "I love you," he whispered, "even if I don't understand what that means yet. I love you." Years passed. Leor grew tall and his shoulders became broad like a man. His hair grew long and floated behind him as he swam. He could swim faster than dolphins and speak the language of fish now, blending perfectly into the sea of creatures. But most importantly, he had learned the mermaid. He learned her body so well he could predict every flick of her tail, every gentle breath she took when she held him in her arms, and he also learned what gave her pleasure. He no longer needed to sleep inside her belly, but he asked to anyway. "Just for warmth," he would say. On occasion, Leor would slide down to her belly button and tickle it to make her laugh. Sometimes he would go even lower just to hear her moan. He knew her body better than anyone had ever known before. After she finished, she would smile, but would say nothing. Then she would open her mouth. Inside, he would curl up to sleep. Through her transparent belly, he still watched the ocean glide past like a dream. One night, as they lay together beneath a crescent moon near the surface, Leor looked into her eyes. "You've always cared for me," he whispered. "Yes," she said, brushing a hand down his jaw. "You're more than just a mother. You're my love, my everything. I want to stay with you, always." Her eyes teared up. For a moment, she said nothing, unsure of how to word what she was going to say next. "I'm not human," she murmured. "I was born from a clam," he said with a smile. "Nothing about me has ever been normal. But you," he kissed her hand, "you are the only thing that's been with me since I was born into this sea. I want you to stay with me forever. Until my dying days." Their love blossomed through the years. Leor grew into an older man, though the mermaid barely aged a day since he was born. She took him into kelp forests where the leaves glowed red for secret kisses and intimate moments. She took him into abandoned shipwrecks, where they would make love all day long. Their bodies entwined under the sunlight and moonlight, their affection radiating out towards each other until their hearts beat as one. And one night, as they held each other close within a loving embrace, she whispered, "I can create life with you now." Their children were half human, half mermaid, and were born from glimmering clamshells in the very same reef where Leor had been found. Dozens of them came out of their shells like fireflies, each a little light in the ocean's darkness. The eel returned only once more, but Leor and the mermaid, now his wife, his goddess, his heart, fought side by side, and this time they defeated it together. Leor never found his birth parents. But it no longer mattered and eventually stopped searching. For he had already found the thing that completed his soul. He had his lover, his children, and the endless sea to call his own now. Each night, as the sun set, the mermaid would open her mouth with a playful smile. "One last time," she'd whisper, and the man who had once been a baby in a shell would laugh, crawl into her mouth, and rest inside her belly, as safe and happy as he had always been.